Recovery efforts are underway in North and South Carolina in the aftermath of Hurricane Florence. The hurricane dumped about 8 trillion gallons of water on North Carolina. That's more than 8 months worth of rain for the area. Thousands are still living in shelters. As the water slowly recedes, food and water are being distributed as the long recovery process begins. For more, let's bring in from Washington, the president and CEO of the American Red Cross, Gail McGovern. Gail, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me on the show, Vlad. I appreciate it.
So what is the situation right now on the ground, and what is the Red Cross doing to help?
Well, the situation on the ground is really dire. There are people who lost their homes, their businesses, livestock, crops, and loss of life, too. And our hearts go out to everyone who was impacted by this storm. The rivers are still cresting. There's still flooding. You mentioned the amount of rain. It's record-setting. Roads are taken out. The infrastructure was impacted, like power and communication. So it's a big area, and it's dire circumstances for the people that were impacted there.
So what are some of the challenges that the Red Cross is facing as the recovery effort begins?
So we also have problems with accessibility and communications, but we're really fortunate. We have a great relationship with state government, and they were able to commission the National Guard, and they were kind enough to get us high water vehicles and drivers, and we were able to get supplies and people to needed areas. They even provided helicopters and our folks, and brought supplies and volunteers that way as well. As the water recedes, it'll be easier to get in and out, but we did what we could in very complicated circumstances, and we're just so grateful that we were able to get those vehicles.
And yet the Red Cross has a history of helping Americans in situations like this in their time of need. Was there anything, though, specifically about Florence that posed sort of a unique challenge, because you had the governor, everyone from the president of the United States to the governor to the head of FEMA saying that this was going to be a storm of historic proportions. At this point in the history of the Red Cross, in dealing with devastation like this, you would assume that there isn't something you haven't seen, but was this something you hadn't seen before?
Well, every storm is a little bit different. Every storm has different challenges. And this was one of the largest storms in my tenure at the American Red Cross. The lack of accessibility is something that was very complicated, and the fact that the rivers flood at different times and crest at different times. It can be completely sunny out, and then suddenly, you know, the banks are flooded and the water rises again. So it was unusual from that respect. And we were fortunate that we had pre-positioned a lot of supplies because we were tracking the storm. We have 3,600 wonderful workers on the ground in the impacted area. Most of them are volunteers that leave their families and spend weeks with us responding, including working 12-hour shifts 7 days a week. And we were able to get about 70 trailers worth of supplies into the impacted area. And we also have 130 emergency response vehicles that will be fanning out into the community as the floodwaters recede, giving hot meals. So it's massive storm, and that is always poses challenges, and we're attempting to meet each one as they come along.
And for the folks, as the president who was visiting some of the afflicted areas yesterday suggested that the next couple of days are still going to be difficult. People are going to find themselves in difficult situations. How can the folks who are in those communities find some of the areas that you're talking about where they can get help from the American Red Cross? Where do they go? Where do they look? Who can they turn to?
So first of all, on our website are all the shelters that we have in operation. But if they can't get access to that, they can call 1-800-RED-CROSS and find out where the nearest shelter is. And as they go back to their communities, they may find their homes uninhabitable, and they may need to come back to the shelters. We'll keep them open until the last person has a place to stay. And this is going to be a long operation. And we will fan out into the communities serving meals as people muck out of their homes. We also provide them with cleanup kits and the like. It's difficult circumstances, but they can find help by getting in touch with us at 1-800-RED-CROSS.
And finally, Gail, the hurricane season, we're still in the midst of it. How are you doing in terms of, one of the things that sometimes we forget, those of us who are not in areas affected by hurricanes or natural disasters, is Americans can help, you can help their fellow citizens by donating blood or donating funds. What are some of the other things that people can do to help you? Because we are still in the midst of hurricane season, and you probably have, other resources that will have to be diverted to helping folks in those situations.
You're absolutely right. And people can help by making financial donations and going to our website. They can donate to the victims of this storm directly or to our disaster relief fund for the next storm that's inevitably going to come our way. Any size gift is deeply appreciated because everything we do is because of the generosity of the American public. And this is going to be a costly operation. You mentioned blood. We had to cancel 200 blood drives because of this storm. And so the need for blood is great, and we need all blood types. And they can also volunteer. They can volunteer for the Red Cross in their community. And we respond to 64,000 disasters every year, so people can help wherever they live. And we will put them to work. If they get on our website, they can find opportunities, they can walk into our chapters. We can always use the gift of time.
And just real quickly before I let you go, Gail, there's something that I want you to highlight, because a lot of people will want to know that their dollars, if they are donating financially, that their dollars are going specifically to this disaster. There is a way on the website to earmark the money that you're donating to the American Red Cross to go to the victims of Hurricane Florence.
That's exactly right. If they want to donate to this particular storm, there's an option on the website, and we will use that money to help the victims of this disaster.
All right, Gail McGovern, President and CEO of the American Red Cross. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it, and thank you for your efforts.
Thank you very much.